Okay, welcome back to another episode from Tailors with Love. Today we're going to be talking about One Night in Miami, directed by Regina King. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critics have this at 98% and the audience have this at 92%. The costume designer for this is Francine Jameson Tanchuk. But on the show today, we have the key costumer for the show, Juliana Hoffpauir. How are we doing today, Juliana?
Great.
Excellent.
Is that your question?
That's I guess an intro of sorts. And also on the other line we have a returning guest, good friend Nick Guzan, editor of Bamf Style. How are you doing today, Nick?
Doing well, thank you.
Excellent, Nick. Love the wine-colored suit. We'll get into that, no doubt. Special occasion for this show. Juliana, I forgot to mention your filmography. Green Book, Deepwater Horizon, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Escape Plan, which I want to grill you on at some point. But perhaps we can start with One Night in Miami. How did you manage to get the gig for this?
So Francine, pretty much, she inherited me coming into New Orleans. I was hired by the costume supervisor, Wendy Talley. So when I came into the project, the clothes were already there. And so it was kind of, and she knew that I had experience with the Green Book. And so we just kind of took it from there. I started fitting the people and the clothes and showed her the pictures, and we had feedback and stuff like that, but that's kind of how I got on.
And could you tell me, and perhaps our audience for the uninitiated, what is the difference between, say, the main costume designer for the film, the set costumer and the key costumer? Could you just distinguish those roles for us?
Every show is different, but in this case, and also in Green Book, the key costumer, I was in charge of all of the background, especially for a period piece, because these background artists have to be pre-fit, because when you have on the day of the show, you got to get everyone dressed and it's very quick. So the more organized you are, the better. So I'm in charge of all the background so that Francine can concentrate on, the main cast and, the secondary players. The background is usually just a whole other department pretty much, because for 2 months we were fitting people all day. And then once, on the heavy days when we have like 200 background, I'm there in charge of getting everyone dressed, and we have lots of other costumers getting people dressed. And then we have set costumers that go onto the set and make sure that people are tucked in, and, looking neat, and, have their cell phones put away so we don't see the rectangle silhouettes in their pockets, stuff like that. So that's kind of the gist. In my department, on One Night in Miami, I had 2 other fitters. So there were 3 of us fitting, and we also had a specific tailor. So that was pretty much our little team.
Okay. Nick, over to you. I read the article that you did on the Sam Cooke wine suit. I can see that you're wearing something very similar. When I asked you if you would like to come on the show and discuss a stylish non-Bond film, this was one of your choices. So what was it about One Night in Miami that really sprung out to you?
I've been very excited to see it. I think I'd first seen a lot of the advertising on Amazon, and it was very exciting. And I'm interested in all the figures. I'd always been a big Sam Cooke fan, particularly. I'd actually just finished Peter Groenick's biography of him, Dream Boogie, and so that kind of the timing worked out that I was finishing that and this movie was coming out, and I was so excited to see it. And I watched it once, and especially the ending, I mean, really stuck with me. I thought it was really beautifully done. And there's, I don't know if I don't want to give too much away, but I just thought it was one of the most impressive sequences of, even just like the music, costume, the way that everything lined up and came together. it just really had me looking forward to watching it again. So then I watched it again with my fiance, and luckily by then I had already seen it, so I was able to keep another eye out on a lot of the costume details. And I was just really blown away how everyone from the four leads to, you know, the hundreds of people in the fight scene, it really, you know, there's really a sense of place that is established by the costumes, a really strong sense of character. You know, everyone seems to be really, what they're wearing is really characteristic to who they are and what we learn about them too. I felt like, so I thought there was a lot of significance in every costume that we see there. So
yeah, and you mentioned the fight scene earlier on. I mean, Juliana, are these scenes a lot more complex and a lot more difficult to kind of navigate around than, say, four gentlemen sitting in a room for 60 or 70 minutes talking, or are there kind of equal difficulties in both?
Well, we had some ideas of like how to dress the different background, like say Wembley fight versus the one in Miami. So in Wembley, we're like, let's get out the tweeds and the hats and you know, lots of layers. And then for Miami, you know, it's much cooler, and so there's less, you know, take off the hat, take off the jacket. A lot of times we had to, when we had people come in for a fitting, you know, they were booked for several different days. So we were fitting basically a closet for them, because we also didn't have a lot of stock. So we had to like make that stock spread out. So we would, my strategy was to like get someone in a suit and then just add the layers, and then change the tie, take off the hat, you know, that kind of basic thing.
Yeah.
And then like for the Copacabana and the Sam Cooke concerts with the Copacabana and the Boston Ballroom, we had two different color palettes going on. With the Copacabana, it was, you know, the sherbet colors, pastels, and then with the Boston Ballroom, it was more jewel tones.
Juliana, what was it like suiting those sharkskin suits for Leslie? How well did he kind of accommodate those looks?
Well, so I wasn't there for that, but one of our seamstresses made those suits. They were all those suits were custom made. So I'm sure, you know, I can't really talk on that process, but it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just like we were saying about the ending, is just so, the impact emotionally just really hits you. And when I saw it for the first time, I had to watch it the next day again, just to kind of catch my breath and go back, because in my world, I wasn't really around those actors. Like, you know, I saw them several times when we were fitting the background, when the first week was the Hampton Inn scenes where they were at the hotel, and there's some background in that. And we also shot that scene at the end where they're all gathered around Cassius Clay, celebrating his win. So we were there for that, but, you know, they were mainly sequestered in that room, you know, that studio room. So I didn't really get to witness all of what was going on, and between those four actors. So it was a revelation to me when I watched the movie, and I was just like, oh my goodness.
Do you get any private screening, or do you get something sent ahead before everyone else gets to watch it? How does it work?
No, not on this show. No, and neither on Green Book. I've designed a couple of shows on my own, and I've been able to see them before, but pretty much not really. I think on Deepwater Horizon, they had a big screening for us. I remember that big. They rented out the movie theater, and the whole crew, we watched it together, and that was a lot of fun. But, you know, this came out during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And another thing about working on One Night in Miami, we were fitting, you know, all of these actors, all these background actors, and And this was kind of right when the virus was starting to spread, and I got sick afterwards. And it's like it's just kind of interesting to see what's going to happen going forward. I don't like the whole time, those 2 months of fitting, we were up in people's faces tying their ties, just because they were different ties, and they were, they've got the smaller knots. And we also don't have mirrors when we're fitting background. So they have a hard time tying their own tie. So it's just quicker if we do that. But now, I guess we're going to, moving forward, just wear masks.
Why are there no mirrors?
It kind of slows down the process of the fittings. We have to go through so many people and keep on schedule. We're fitting, like on one night in Miami, we fit, 3 people every 30 minutes. Since there were 3 of us, we had 30 minutes, to get 3 outfits on them sometimes. And some people are quicker to fit, and some people take a little bit longer. And you can't have a mirror in there and get all their opinions.
Oh, I thought that's where it was going. It's a bit of vanity creeping in. Or
it's just, you take the mirror away and you don't have to deal with any of that.
Well, also, I mean, guys, especially when you get in front of a mirror, they get all the wrong postures because they kind of want to suck everything in and then lean upright, and it's not really how you wear any garment in real life. So
right.
I can imagine that's a pain.
Yeah, I'm sure it'd be easier for them to tie their ties in the mirror, but so that was one thing.
That was it, yeah. And was it difficult fitting Eli Gorey, who played Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay in this film? Because he looked like the guy along with Adonis Hodge, who was like the bigger build. Do you find it's the dudes that are slightly, the tall glasses of water, are they difficult to fit typically?
Yeah, well, I think it's easier if you're just taking their measurements and then making it for them, their custom suits. Finding a period suit, renting it from Western Costume would be harder, I think, because he's got big legs and, he's got the athletic build. The suits, some of them are boxy, some of them are slim, but, sometimes when you're designing for a film, you kind of want to do your own take on a period, like, because you want their body to look good. You don't want it to be you don't want to be distracted by an ill-fitting suit. I don't know if that's what I'm really trying to say, but I think it probably was easier just to start from scratch with any of those guys.
Yeah. But I've read in your article, Nick, that there was some stuff that was hired from Western Costume. Was it one of the suits for Leslie? Did you deal with Western Costume at all for this, Juliana?
Not me, no. Because when I came in, it was Francine and her assistant costume designer and maybe someone else. They prepped the show in LA, so they did all of that shopping and organizing before. And so then it was all shipped to us in e-crates, and then we unpacked it and organized it. Right. So I didn't really have any. I didn't have any impact in getting the clothes that we were fitting on the people. My job was just mainly to fit them properly in the right stuff. I did bring Francine to a local vintage dealer. This guy, he's got this house here in New Orleans just full of these really special pieces. And we had a good time in there. Found some special things for Sam Cooke's wife, and some really great. We needed more ties. I mean, there's never enough.
Yeah.
So that was a fun excursion.
Do you bring anything from you? Oh, sorry, Nick, you can say something.
Oh, I was just curious too. I mean, with the number of people that you're fitting in that quick amount of time, were there any shortcuts that that you picked up to make someone? I mean, I feel like everyone in the background of these scenes, you know, looks better. I mean, it's a night out, the Copacabana night, the fights, they look better than I do when I'm trying to get ready in the morning. And like, so are there any tips that you found that or shortcuts, whether it was on this production or previous ones, like how you're able to just make these people look so great in such a short amount of time? Because
Well, I mean, that's a good question. But you know, it's just like you just have to have a variety of sizes because you just don't know who's going to walk in the door. And so the larger sizes are harder to find. But you know, we do have them, and you know, that's also like good on Francine for getting, you know, a nice variety of styles and, you know, sizes so that we can accommodate most people. Now, so, you know, when we were doing our pre-fits, we had control over that. So we met some of our numbers, but they still needed more extras. So on the day, there are people that show up that haven't been pre-fit. So we have stuff, we have to fit them on the day. So we ask them to, you know, bring, you know, like a black dress so that we could, in case we don't have anything, we could, you know, throw on a coat or a shawl or something, and then just kind of stick them kind of in the back.
Outside in the corridor.
Yes,
I
that's
mean,
always a challenge. That's like the biggest challenge I would have to say is like when you don't have the time to fit all these people, and it's a period show, and then you've got all these people swarming in, and you're like, you have to dress all of them, and you know.
Have you ever had this happen? I know, reading in a book about Thunderball, the Bond producers incentivized all the extras to dress really well by having a prize at the end. I think it was for the scent money, the cafe scene with the casino. And they figured out quite early on that it would be cheaper to give a prize away for the best dressed rather than to kit everyone out in costumes and rentals, etc. Has that ever come across you?
That is genius. I love it.
Yeah. There you go. Cubby Broccoli as the man back in 65.
Thank you for that pro tip. No, I mean, we've had, I think there sometimes extras casting does that where they give them a bump in pay. So that's, you know, but a lot of people don't really understand what you're asking for, and I'll send out an email and with pictures and try to describe, you know, what to bring. But a lot of people, they don't have that, and you know, they don't, especially like if you're shooting a 1964 picture, most people don't have vintage clothing in their closets.
Yeah, not at their disposal. Well, unless you're Nick Guzan over there with the red wine suit ready to go.
Right. We do ask the men to like bring their dress shoes and, you know, dress shirt and suit, and you know, most people are able to do that, and so yeah.
Do you feel like a difference in quality and texture, like whenever you're fitting people in, you know, 60s period suits and shirts? Like what would you say are some of the most noticeable differences just in what that's like, you know, having so many of those running through your hands every day?
Yeah, it's interesting when you're holding an old piece of garment, you're just like, wow, this has been around longer than me. And it's, you know, they're fibers, and they're soaking up things from years and years. So yeah, sometimes you know, you want to sneeze, or you know, they're itchier as opposed, I mean, they're really well made, but like our fabrics have come such a long way now, you know, modern fabrics are just so much more comfortable to wear, but like the vintage stuff, you have like these amazing colors and patterns that we don't see anymore. It's like, why not? So I love looking at holding old clothes, vintage dresses, just to kind of see how they were made, and all the care that went into it, basically.
Is the 60s your favorite decade? I know a lot of costume designers have like a favorite.
It's so fun. The 60s are so fun. I mean, like, you can really, there's always something about some decade that, well, I love the 20s are interesting, the 30s, well, 40s, yes. But 60s, yeah, I don't know if you can't beat the 60s, because it's such so much happened, and like from 1960 to 69, it's just such a clear difference, a big, evolution, really.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Juliana, thanks for coming on and talking about One Night in Miami. Nick,
thank you for your interest.
No, well, thank you also, Nick, for jumping on. I know you're living out of boxes right now, so tricky time for you. But Juliana, I noticed on IMDb you got a film 12 Mighty Orphans that's in the pipework. What can you tell us about that?
I'm really excited to see this one. It is based on a true story of these orphans from the Masonic home in Fort Worth, Texas in the 30s. A football coach came and developed this football team, and they ultimately went on to win the state championship. So it's kind of this, underdog story. In our story, it takes place over a year, but so it's football, Texas football, 1930s.
Right in my wheelhouse. I love films about American football. I can't follow the rules. I have no idea how it works. But I just love films like Jerry Maguire, Draft Day. I had no idea what was going on during Draft Day, but I loved the heck out of that film. I could watch that over and over again. Sorry, going on a bit of a tangent. Nick, you've got a favorite American football film, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, I always know I had a soft spot for Remember the Titans. We would always watch that. That was always like one of the ones too. Whenever we'd be going on school trips, that was one of the safe ones to put on. But again, it was like this era, the late '60s. The music, the clothes were all great in that too. So I always like that.
Good pull, deep pull. Well, Juliana, thanks.
Thank you for having me. I hope there's usable stuff in there.
Yeah, no, definitely. Nick, I don't suppose you had any other questions, or?
No, I mean, if anything, I mean, I just want to keep voicing my appreciation just what a great movie, what a great looking movie it was. I mean, every costume from our four leads to everyone in the Copa scenes, in the fight scenes, you just you want to be there, you want to be shopping where they're shopping too. Everything.
It's a special movie. It's like you work on some that are just kind of like ho hum, and then you get these ones that you're like, this is why I'm doing this. So it is really kind of affirming, and it's just such a great story. And Regina was amazing, and just really collaborative, and she kind of let us do our thing, and it was cool.
Oh, and the song at the end. I mean, I was just pining for that. I live by that song. I run to it. I cook to it. I mean, it's kind of in my life almost every other day. And all the way through, I was just going, please play the song. And then when he did it a cappella, almost like for the first 30 seconds, it just nails you to the couch, doesn't it? I mean, you can't move.
And I think I missed that. I could have gone and seen that, and I had like all this stuff to do, and I also wasn't feeling well. But I believe they only did that in one take.
Wow.
Well, possibly two, but I think it was one. That's what I remember them saying.
Yeah, he had such a crazy life, Sam Cooke, as well. I mean, I know I'll have to read that book that you recommended, Nick.
I recommend it, and it does touch on too a little bit of what his personal style had been, and how he he started dressing like Sam Cooke did. He would dress in like an Ivy style, and that was kind of his gateway to finding more of that individualism. Which I think is, kind of the similar trajectory of like Miles Davis, who started dressing in Ivy and then evolved that into something really their own, where, a couple of years into his career, Sam Cooke could wear like a sharkskin burgundy suit with a day cravat. And there was something too, because it seemed like so many of the costumes were really driven by historical record. There's that brief scene in his hotel room at the Fontainebleau with Sam and his wife, and you briefly see he's wearing these check pants, which I recognized as, from a couple different photos of Sam Cooke. Like sometimes he's wearing it with a blazer, and I think one time with a cardigan. And whenever I saw those, I caught it the second time when I was watching with my fiance, and I kind of pointed at the screen, and it's like, stop! Those are the trousers. I've seen those in so many pictures. It was like that meme of Leo DiCaprio pointing at the screen. I felt like I was doing that same thing. I was so excited when I saw those, and it was just one of those things, like, a detail like that too, which, it's not something that's talked about, that, Sam Cooke wore these tattersall check trousers, but it's just one of those things that, made its way into the production and just added that little bit of, realism that we're really seeing these characters, which, I mean, and of course too, the classic Malcolm X look was there, and Cassius Clay and Jim Brown, like they're both, dressed in these, the fit kind of resembles a more athletic fit. Everyone looks like they could have been the real person. So just revoicing my appreciation for just every detail of, just a really, really beautiful movie.
Nice. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. I mean, that is just kind of the ultimate goal, is to get those little details, because it is all in the details. And Francine had grown up with Sam Cooke and remember, I mean, listening to Sam Cooke, listening to Sam Cooke, and remembers, like, the plaid pants are kind of like what her brain remembers, seeing. And so, yeah, you want to throw that in there.
Yeah. And I think what it's done also has rejuvenated a new audience to these characters. I mean, I can't imagine the amount of people that are just going to go out now and want to find out more about Sam Cooke and Malcolm X,
Yeah, absolutely.
especially. I mean, I know kind of the broad strokes of watching the Denzel Washington movie, but I'm now going to do deep dives into things like this. So, yeah, great vehicle for so many things. But anyway, Juliana, Nick, thanks so much for your time on a Sunday, and
thank you
again. Please come
that was fun.
back on the show anytime.
Thanks.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good one.